Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Denisse. I'm an amateur for life, and there's a lot that I know, but there is so much that I'm still learning. So I want to share with you to see what we can learn from each other. So if you've clicked on this video, it might be because you're wondering about relationships. And there's a lot that I don't know about relationships and a lot of things that I still find very difficult about relationships. But essentially, this is going to be for the purposes of reframing conflict and relationships as repairs and what is necessary, because it is. It just doesn't feel good in the process. Probably because you are navigating something going on in a relationship or in relationships dynamics that happen in your everyday life. So I want to share a little bit about what I've recently learned based off a conflict that I saw in my own life that really helped me reframe what was going on. And let's just start with the fact that relationships are hard. I have not met anyone who is in a devoted and consistent relationship that hasn't had a difficulty arise in them. And when I'm talking about relationships, I'm really speaking very broadly in terms of any kind of relationship that you have in your life. Define that openly as you want to. And I want to put out there that relationships are very important because they help us maintain, support, grow ourselves. And there is not a person out there who didn't, doesn't, or couldn't use somebody's help in something. And there's not a person who's not touched by another person. So unless you're somebody who lives in the mountains, chances are you are interacting with someone in some way, shape, or form in your everyday life, even if it's virtually. And if you are that person who doesn't interact with someone, it's probably not, you're probably not watching this video. So relationships, in whichever way that you're defining them, whether it is in a pair, a group, a unit, or any kind of gathering of folks or relationships that you can think of, why do we need them? Why do we want them? And essentially, what is it about them that's so important? And so think about relationships overall, just how much we can get from one another in everyday things. And I'll even give you the example of being someone who, let's say you're someone who works from home, wherever you are. It could be in a city, it could be in a small town, any place you can think of. And even if you only looked at spreadsheets, only interacted with folks via chat, even when you left your apartment, home, you would go to the grocery store to find what you needed to eat. Even if you grow your items in your home, chances are you still get supplies from somewhere and you buy and interact with someone along the way. The other reason that we want relationships is because we need relationships is because of, very simply put, love. We are very giving and caring beings. We tend to care very much about folks who are in our lives, and that can look and feel a number of different ways. You could be someone who has a lot of loved ones, or you can have a select few loved folks, and there is something protective about that. So why are relationships so hard? Well, when we're interacting, we are navigating a lot of things on our own. And a relationship can be a number of different dynamics. We can go on and on with how many ways we can define this. But this can range from personal relationships to more professional relationships and beyond. And so there's a lot to be thought about in all of those different definitions. But with all of those different definitions and aspects of life and the way we can interact with one another, there is so much that comes up. So let's reframe. Chances are you are in the middle of trying to navigate something that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe a conflict is in place right now. And I noticed that a lot of the people in my life tend to think of the dynamic interactions that they can have with one another, sometimes in a negative light, because they feel very uncomfortable with what's going on. And so let's just talk about the fact that relationships are fucking hard. And people don't talk about that, in my opinion, as often as they should. And I'm referring to relationships with your friends, relationships with your family, relationships that are potentially romantic, and even relationships that are professional. They're hard. And that could be in a scenario in which everything is ebbing and flowing comfortably, or there is a conflict actively happening, or there's even just a misunderstanding that has occurred that will easily be remedied. They can be hard. So when you're in the midst of it being difficult and not understanding what it is that's happening, or you're feeling uncomfortable, a lot of times we will go to the question of, why am I doing this? So let's talk about it. I had this idea growing up that relationships were easy. Even when I thought about the interpersonal relationships I saw, and they ranged from romantic, like my parents, to friendships, to all those dramas and shows that I used to watch. I used to think in a lot of the situations that I saw, they made sense, right? They made perfect sense. And yet they were so easy to fix when it was regarding interacting with one another and trying to figure out how to interact with one another. And of course you would bring this up, or I would bring this up as a child to family members like my mom and my dad and other family members. And I would tell them, it's just so easy. Why don't you do X, Y, and Z, right? Like if someone's feelings were hurt, why don't you just, don't do that thing again? And as a child, it is really easy and simple. And I do think there's a part of us that does make it difficult. But I've also, in growing up, have realized that things aren't always that straightforward. Sometimes there are multiple layers to something that's come up for somebody, or what someone is trying to understand, process, and really figure out in their day-to-day. And so when these kind of things happen, as an adult now, I realize and reflect on the fact that it really is not that easy. So how do we go about navigating this? It's my cat, Canelo. So how do we go about navigating the difficulties? Why are relationships so important? Why do we stay in them? Why do we continue to take part in them? Why do we continue to search for them if you're someone who is seeking active and new friendships and beyond? Why do we do it? Well, we're social beings. So we actually, I'm going to say this, and I know that some folks are going to be like, absolutely not, that's not me. But we need one another. And Canelo agrees. So we need one another in everyday interactions. We can be very independent people and live our lives very independently and think of ourselves as being very independent. But we all need other people. So even if you're someone who is very independent, you go about your day-to-day, you don't need anybody, you've got yourself. This includes financially, physically, and everything else that you can think of. You are still someone who needs other folks. And you could maybe not want friends, not want a partner, not want to live at home with your family, but you still interact with people on your day-to-day. And you are someone who probably still needs other people on a day-to-day, whether it is, even if it isn't in terms of friendship or romance. Let's say you have a business and you're someone who is really great at taking care of yourself, at taking care of others financially. You don't need anybody, quote unquote. But if you're running that business, then you still need your customers. You still need to interact with folks who are going to get you supplies if you're utilizing them, or get your, marketing out there. This is just an example. But we need one another. We need one another for not only emotional support, but also physical support, and also just general overall care and love. And that's the other reason we are a part of relationships. It's because of love. And that can be talked about in a few different ways, including a more scientific approach to it as to why it is that we take part in love. And that could be in terms of loving a child in your family, taking care of them, watching them grow up, and guiding them throughout life. It could be in taking care of a pet. You might hear my cat meow. I love that little guy. He's probably going to yell at some point. But I love him. I take care of him. You get something from love. Not only a chemical reaction in your brain that makes it feel good to be around that little being. Let's use my cat again as an example. Or you get something very positive and fun from it, like going out with your friends and enjoying time outside. Or you're someone who really enjoys going out with your family. You get a very positive, loving response from it in your brain. But also, a lot of times we take part in them because we want to and need to be seen. So we want to be seen and we want to be a part of community. And that helps us in our day-to-day. So making things more tolerable, also fun and pleasant, and of course, less painful. So why are relationships so hard if we want to be in them so bad or need to be in them? They're hard because they require a lot of attention and work, because we are all dynamic beings and individuals who have a number of things going on, layers upon layers of what is happening in our lives. People have a lot of different identities or aspects to their life that make things more complex than we would understand. And that means that when we interact with one another, a host of different things are coming up for everyone in that interaction. This, of course, could lead to what is making us uncomfortable, which is conflict or misunderstandings. For the purposes of this video and referencing these misunderstandings and difficulties in relationships that come up as uncomfortable feelings, I'm going to call this a rip. So in a relationship, there could be a rip. There could be a conflict that happens, a misunderstanding, or something that has changed in the relationship that causes significant or even just mild discomfort, along with maybe continued difficulties. It also creates an uncomfortable physiological response in our body too, because we could get defensive, we could get worried, we can get anxious, a lot of different things. And so a rip in a relationship could be very difficult for you depending on who you are, because you might be telling yourself a few different things about yourself when it comes to experiencing these uncomfortable feelings or misunderstanding, this rip in a relationship. And that could be that folks are going to abandon you. You're worried that this misunderstanding might make it so that everything has changed and nothing's going to be the same ever again. It could be that you're someone who really just doesn't want to be disliked. You don't want to deal with the difficulty of interacting with others in a way that is causing this kind of misunderstanding and navigation and overthinking. It might scare you to think that there's something about you that's going on here. There's a number of different reasons why. But as uncomfortable as it is, I want you to see this rip in the relationship, in the dynamic, in which whatever you are a part of, as an opportunity. This is an opportunity to be seen, to be heard. Even if that other person doesn't hear you, then you can hear yourself. And of course, to create a stronger bond. In life, there will always be ebbs and flows, and that's true for relationships as well. Relationships are meant to challenge us so that we have the space and opportunity to grow and learn about ourselves in that process. So when something comes up that is difficult or is really causing these uncomfortable feelings, I have some recommendations for how to go about them. So first and foremost, if you're someone who is watching this video because there's been a pause, that's great, because that's my first recommendation, is take a pause from what it is that's causing the conflict, the misunderstanding, or the difficulties. So if that means that you are having a conversation that is difficult and uncomfortable, it's time to take a pause from that conversation. Maybe you're here for that reason, or maybe you in the future might need to go watch a show, take a walk, or just turn on some music, put on some headphones, take a break, listen to a podcast, just take a break. Take some time. You know what that could mean for you. When you are in a place where you can think about what's going on and not just have a heightened sense of discomfort or upset, then I would recommend reevaluating what happened. So taking a closer look at what happened, what's going on, and trying to understand it for yourself, but also from the perspective of the other folks. And then I also want you to try again. So if there is a conflict, let's say we'll stick to the example of having a conversation that's super uncomfortable, then maybe you come back to it. You bring it up again, because bringing it up is going to make it so that it could be repaired. And repairing in the relationship is the opportunity for you to make that relationship stronger. And sometimes trying again isn't just restarting the conversation again. Sometimes trying again is just maybe saying hello to that person. Maybe just starting off with a quick hi and easing back into discussing what happened. Repairing for our relationships is what's going to mend and make them strong and make our relationships stronger. So that's why you have people who are in long-term relationships. That's why you have siblings that are very close to one another. So you have friends who, even if they're not related to you, they are closer to you than any family that you've known for all of your life. Mending, repairing, supporting each other, and caring for one another is going to be the thing that helps us get through our day-to-day and also helps us to evolve past where we currently are, which is essentially why we are in relationships. So giving yourself the opportunity to repair, reframing it so that it is something that is not as daunting as using a word like fight or anger, or not labeling it in this big scary way that will stay permanently that way. We know it doesn't, but when we have those misunderstandings and conflict is one of those words, then you know that there will be a point in time where it changes back to a more harmonious and comfortable place. And I just want to add a quick note here, and that is, if you're someone who is watching this video and you're trying to take notes and you've been putting in a lot of work and effort into a relationship and trying to mend a relationship, but you are the person who is doing all of that effort or taking all of those actions, then it might be a time for you to reevaluate how you want to repair the relationship, potentially also with yourself. Because sometimes mending a relationship is important, and sometimes that relationship is also with yourself. I didn't mean that to feel like an attack on anybody. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I don't know what else to say. You may be able to tell, you can tell that I'm new to making videos. I'm really excited to be a part of this journey. I really like self-development and exploration. and amateur for life kind of gave way to a period of my life where I just feel like I don't know very much. I know quite a lot in life, just through my own experiences, but there's so much that I still don't know and I'm still learning, and I want to create a channel to continue to explore and expand on where I am in my life and what that looks like. So if you're interested and you're on your own journey and some of this resonates with you, then I ask you to please subscribe, press that like button, and also continue to check out some more of my other videos. And bear with me as I continue to learn how to do the filming, the recording, which is also filming, the scripting, the thumbnails, and all other things in between. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a great day.